Hi guys, welcome to session 68 of Java Full Stack Made Easy. In this session, let me show you what exactly I'm thinking of. So you can see that there is a application that I have created which is acting like a bookstore, wherein what we can generally do is you can see that some of the books I have already added in the library. So I can just click on add books to add a new book over here. Let's say the ID 14 I'm giving, book title something like two states, and author Chetan Bhagat, price. So I'm trying to add a new book. The moment I add a new book, that book gets added to this list here. You can see that two states. And if you wish to view the books, you can just simply click on the view book button and you will see the details of that book. And what I can also do is if you want to change the price or something over here, then you can simply click on edit and change whatever you like. Maybe the price which was 300 before, I'm just making it 400, and I click on update. So it says book updated successfully, and you can notice that in a list the price is changed. Fine. So similarly, if I wish to delete that particular book, I can delete as well. So you can see that in a list the book is not available. So this is something which I would like to develop end to end right from the scratch in this session. So stay tuned to build something like this at the end of this particular session. Fine. So yeah, I'll go right from the scratch, that is from creating the Angular application to displaying you this application at the end of this video. So first of all, as we know that this obviously the application that I showed you was also working on JSON server. So I'll first close up this JSON server and I'll simply exit this terminal from here. And now I will create a new Angular project. Fine. So to create a new Angular project, I'll start my terminal here in the Angular demos. So I'll say ng new. Okay, let's give it a name, maybe HTTP CRUD project. Okay, so this is the name, and as usual I go for the no standalone components. I'll go for no hyphen standalone. All right, so we will be creating a new Angular project with CSS, and we don't want the other thing SSR. I don't want zonal. Yes, so without a zone.js is something which I defaultly create. So that's it. So let it create a new Angular project. So once a new Angular project is created, the next thing what I will do is I will start my JSON server. Before I create the components and everything, I'll start my JSON server first. Okay, so this will create the Angular project for us. Once the Angular project is created, we will start the JSON server and then we will start creating the component. So you can see that the Angular project is created. So this is the HTTP CRUD project, and from HTTP demo, the previous project, I'll just copy the JSON file, the db.json, and let's come down to that project, and here I'll paste it, the db.json, and what we will do is we'll just clean up everything that's there in that. So let us first open that particular project that is created in here. So it is HTTP CRUD project. So I'll open it into my VS Code. Fine. So that is done. Now I'll go to the db.json that I have, and this was cars, and now what I'm thinking of is I'm thinking of the superheroes. Fine. And it'll be empty, no superhero will be available as for now. So just let's clean that up. I'll save it, and now what I will do is I'll start the JSON server. So I'm into the Angular project. Here itself I'll start it. I'll start a new terminal. I'll say JSON hyphen server hyphen watch db.json. So that should start me a superheroes API. Fine. So that's ready. As of now there is no data, it is completely empty. So let's deal with the things one by one now in our Angular code. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll create a model for the superhero. So the model, I'll name it as superhero dot model dot typescript. Fine. So let's create a class here. Export class. We will call it as superhero itself. Superhero class. That's done. And now we will decide the properties of it. So I'll have an ID. ID has to be there, right? So ID will be of type string. So as for now, an empty stuff I'm giving here. and then the name. We can even create this as an interface also. If we create the superhero class as an interface, then while using it in the components and all, it requires all the properties to be given. So that is again a better way of doing it. Fine. So if I wish to keep it as a class, I can keep it as a class. If I wish to create it as an interface, that is actually a good way of doing it. Fine. So name is string empty now, and then I will create superhero will have some power, special powers, that will also be of type string in this case. Okay, and then the superhero belongs to which universe? So that's something which I'm thinking of. Again, an empty property. So 4 properties I'm creating for the model. ID, which has to be there, which is something that defines each superhero, right? Something that uniquely identifies the superhero. Then we have the name of that superhero, power, and then the universe, and also I will specify the data type of this. Fine. So the next thing what I'm gonna do is I'll generate the service for this superhero. We will write all the stuff in the service, like what you have just now seen in this application which I showed you here, about adding a new superhero, editing the superhero, viewing the superhero, deleting a superhero. So all those functionalities I will implement, fine, in the service. So let's open a new terminal and get started with the service part of it. So I'll do a ng generate service, and we will create a superhero service. Okay, superhero service. Fine, so it has created a superhero hyphen service. So that's fine. Now let's go to the superhero hyphen service which is created. So here is the superhero service that is created. Now in this service we know that we need an HTTP client. So because we need an HTTP client, we have to add that particular module in our app module.typescript, right? So in the app module.typescript, since I have already came up here, I know that I would be requiring a HTTP client module. So I'll take that HTTP client module. With HTTP client module, I would also require a forms module. So that is something which I am importing now itself. So HTTP client module is there, forms module. So two things are added. We are done with the app.module.typescript. So let's go back to the service, the superhero service.typescript. Now let us inject the service HTTP client here. So inside the constructor, I would require a private HTTP of type HTTP client. Fine. So this will be injected now. Okay. So once the injection is done, now the next thing what we are going to do is, we know that all our application like the superheroes will obviously work on this particular URL, that is localhost 3000/superheroes. Fine. So this is something which we will be working on, right? So I will consider this as the base URL for my application. So I'll create a variable so that I would not be required to write the URL again and again, and there will be less chance of me writing that wrong, right? So let's call it as private base URL equals to. So this is something that we generally do in Angular. So a URL is set. Now let's talk about the other things that can be implemented here. The first thing that I want to implement here is get all superheroes. Fine. So if you see this application here, this is get all, right? So we have the view, edit, delete, and all those stuff are there. Similarly, I want to write a get all superheroes here. So let's call it as get heroes. Fine. And this get heroes returns us all the heroes, right? So I'll just say http return http dot get, and what type of data it is going to return us? It is going to return us the superhero array. Fine. And then it works on the URL that we have already created there. So this dot base URL. So by writing this method, we will be done with retrieving all the superheroes. Similarly, if you see the application again, if I click on view, each superhero will be viewed, right? A specific superhero will be displayed. So for that, obviously I would need a get hero by id. So what I'm going to do is I'll copy the above one and let's call this as get hero by id. So this will be get hero by id http get method, and this is going to return us one single superhero. So I'll just be writing it as one single superhero. And also we know that if we want to include the IDs, we require the backticks to be taken. So it will be this dot superheroes, and this is actually a variable, right? So what we have to do is to consider this as a variable. You write the same thing that we used before, dollar. Fine. So then this base URL, which is the base URL that I have specified here, that has to be taken, plus the ID has to be given. So let's give the ID after this. So it takes the URL. Also after that, it takes the dollar ID. Fine. So once the ID is given, from where it is going to take the ID? So it takes the ID from the argument provided here. So we will create this particular function with an ID. Will be by writing this, we will be done with the get by ID. Similarly, we have to add the heroes, update the hero, and delete the hero, right? So if you see it here, we should be able to add a new hero, we should be able to update it, we should be able to delete it. So we will write up those functions as well. So now let's go for the add hero. So in the add hero functionality, we know that it is going to be a post method. So return http dot post method, and when we are writing the post method, we know that we are going to give it a superhero model, so we will provide that. And then post method takes two argument, right? One is the base URL, and the next thing will be what? The object. So what object? A completely new hero object. So this add hero will work on the hero, and let's call it a superhero, and this hero object will be passed in here. Fine. So by doing this, we will be done with what? Adding a new superhero into the API. So let's copy the same because update looks similar. So we'll have an update hero now. So update hero, here it takes the hero itself as an argument, and ID can also be taken, or we can take the ID from the superhero object itself that is passed to it as an argument. Fine. So this dot, instead of post, it is going to be put, and it again returns a superhero, and it requires an ID as well, right? So what we are gonna do is this base URL would be similar to what? The get by ID. I'll just copy this part from here and put it into the update. So it will be written like this. Fine. And the ID is not there obviously, but we know that we have a hero object. From that hero object itself, you take the ID. Fine. And then pass in the hero object. Similarly, now the next thing is for what? For delete. So it is delete by ID. So what I'm going to do is I'll just copy this get hero by ID, and I'll set up the delete by ID functionality here. Let's call it as delete hero. So let's not call it as delete by ID because there's only one delete method here that requires an ID, and return, instead of this get, let's call it as delete. So if you want to return something with this delete, you can return. If you don't want this deleted object to be returned, you can simply ignore that part. Fine. So again, the base URL and the ID provided. So by doing this, we will be done with our service. The service will be set up. Now after this, once the setup is done for the service, next thing will be the components where I'm gonna consume this. And before I go to creating the components, I know that, see, there is a button called as view here. Upon click of this, a hero will be viewed. When I click on add, when I click on home, so there is some routing happening, navigation happening. So let us configure our navigations accordingly, and after that we can go to the components part. Fine. So let's go to the routing and configure the routes for these things. Fine. So our routes are going to be what? We will be showing the superhero, and then we will be doing a add, edit, view, right? So we will create components like what? Let's generate the components. Ng generate component. So what all components we need? We need a list of superhero component, we need a add, we need an edit, right? So this is the list of superhero component. We need a add, a view, edit, and the delete will be there in the same component itself, right? So we will be writing add, view, edit, and list. So let's generate those components. So ng generate component. The first component I'll generate, the main component, is gonna be the list of superhero component. Let's call it as superhero list component. That will be created as a superhero list. Let's call it as component. In previous editions of Angular, it automatically added a component to component, service to service. Fine, so it was that intelligent. But in these versions, they have not added that. But anyhow, we will add it that way. So a superhero list component is created for us now. Similarly, we will generate a superhero add component. Okay, so similarly, we need what? Two more components. Add is done, list is done, view and edit are required, right? So let's go for a view and the edit component. All right, so 4 components I am creating. Now all those 4 components I will just configure here. So for configuration, we have already learned this routing. It should take a path. So the path will be heroes, the default path, and the component. So the first component that has to be shown to us is a list component, superhero list component. So let's call it a superhero list component. So this is something that has to be shown to us the moment we open it, so we can even configure the default path. Okay, so we'll do that as well later. Now after that, we would require a heroes, an add has to be taken. Fine, so I will just say, when a user clicks on add, so it should go to heroes add, and then the component should be what? Superhero add component. That will be done. Similarly, we'll have edit and view, right? Because delete is already there in the list component itself. So it will be an edit and also view. Okay, 4 components. So as of now, let's just configure that and check whether the components will be taken there or not. So it will be an edit component and the superhero view component. Done with all of this. So what I will do now is I'll just save it and I'll do an ngserv -o just to test whether the application is taking me to those URLs or not. Fine, so it is still there. Yeah, I have to go back to my app component.html, clean this up and have a router outlet displayed here. So let's save it. So we'll get a router outlet and our list is like heroes, so superhero list component is there, that's fine. And after that we have an add, so it should take us to add, it should take us to edit, yes, and it should take us to what? View. That's fine. So it is taking us to, that means what? Navigation is working perfectly fine. But when we come to this particular heroes, that is our default URL. So when we come to the heroes, at that time what should happen is, in this list, if you see this example here, if I click on that view, now that it will not work obviously because I have closed the uh, JSON server and that project is also closed. So if you have noticed in the previous example, if I click on view, it goes to that proper view component, right? So that details of that hero will be displayed. So for that we would require the ID of that superhero. Fine, so we will be configuring the path parameters for this so that the IDs also can be taken. So I'll go to the app routing module, and if somebody clicks on edit, they should also provide me the ID of that superhero. Okay, so it will display the ID of it will display that superhero details and you can perform an edit there. Similarly for view also it is required, so I'll give 2 path parameters here, one for view, one for the edit. So do remember these 2 things which will be required, and I'll show you where we are going to utilize this. So by doing this, our configuration of routing will be done. So let us now develop our first page, the superhero list component. So this is our superhero list component, and in the list component, let us first subscribe to the service that we have created. Okay, so this is our component, and here we are going to subscribe to the service method that we have already created before. So here what I'm going to do is, the first thing, obviously it is going to give me a list of heroes. So I'll create something like heroes, an array of type heroes, of type superheroes, an empty array. Okay, so an empty array will be created, and the data that we are retrieving from the API will actually be stored into this heroes itself. Fine. So let's now inject the service that we have created there. So I'm going to take a superhero service, which will be private, and it will be service or hero service of type superhero service is something which we have created, right? So this will be of this type, and now it will be injected. After injecting this, what I'm gonna do is I'll create a function. I'll call it as load heroes or get heroes or something. Fine. So this load heroes will subscribe to the method, the get heroes that we have created in the service. So service is this dot hero service is something which I have created above here, right? So this dot hero service dot get heroes dot subscribe. So we know that subscribe can result us in two things. One is it can give us the data, or it can give us the error. So in case of error, we will just do a console.log error, and in case of data, what we are going to do is we will just simply say the heroes that we have created equals to the data that we are retrieving. Fine. So once that is done, what we will do is, the moment this page is loaded, at that time itself we want to see that data. So we will just implement a lifecycle hook that is going to be ng on, sorry, it will be an on init, so which will have an ng on init function. So we'll take that ng on init, and in this we are gonna do a load heroes. Fine. So this is this should show us the details the moment we load this data. Fine. So that's fine. Let's save it, and we will test. Yeah, as for now there are no superheroes there, right? So what we can do is we can insert a superhero maybe from a postman and then check it, or as for now what I will do is I'll keep the superhero stuff as it is, and then let us what we will do is we will also design the HTML, and accordingly we can check that later. So for my HTML, I would require a table that displays the details. So let's go to the superhero HTML. So I will just remove this heading and everything from there, and I'll simply create a table, and it should display me the ID. Sorry. So the table with a table row, which is going to be a table heading basically at the beginning. So table head should be what? Should be four things. So the first table rows are table heads. So table row, four table heads needs to be added there, which is gonna be ID, and what all things we have taken there? Name, right? Power and universe. So ID, name, power, universe. Okay. So we have taken all that as an heading here. Then what we have to do is we have to iterate over the heroes array that we have created, and as long as the heroes are there, we are just gonna simply print those. So the next tr table row will have an ng for on it. Okay. So this is something we have been doing from a long time now, ng for. So let's call it as let hero of heroes. Okay, and then the table data, wherever we have the name and everything, that will be displayed, name, id, power, and the universe. So I'll just copy this, put it here. So this can be our table data. Later we will format all of this. So id, we are just gonna write it as what, hero dot id. Similarly, it will be hero dot name, and then hero dot power, sorry, and the last one, hero dot universe. That's fine. So let's save it. Now we would also require what, after this id, name, power, and universe, we require a view button, we require an edit button, we require a delete button as well. So let us also create those things. Let's first just have a look at this. So we have the id, name, power, and universe. That's fine. Then we require a view, edit, and delete. So let's create that as well. So another table head, this will have a button which will be a view button. So okay, as of now I'm not linking it anything, so I'll just call it as a view button, edit button, and delete button. Edit, delete. Okay, let's save it and just let's have a look at the things there. Yeah, the data is not yet there, so the below stuff is not displayed yet. So what I will do is I'll just open the postman and I will try to insert one superhero there. So let's have a 3000 heroes. First of all, this should actually give me what, plain data has to be shown to me. Let's check. Superheroes it is. Superheroes, let's send. So it should give me an empty array. So I now have an empty array in the body raw JSON. I should pass a superhero object there, right? So let's give some dummy values like the id. Okay, id is gonna be 1, and then what, we have given name, and let's give the name to the superhero, Shaktiman, and then what we have, we have the power, right? Okay, the power is what, flying, and the universe. This is just to view whether just to check whether I'm able to get this data on the view page or not. So sorry, this is not a get method, there should be a post method. Let's hit send. So the data is sent. Now let's do a get for this and let's retrieve the data. So you can see that the data is retrieved. If the data is retrieved here, here also the data has to be retrieved. Now that the data is not yet retrieved, let me check whether I have the data being given here or not. So I'll just refresh it once, and yeah, I'll inspect it on my console whether the data is there or not. So on console there is no error, that means something is happening. So here it is returning me the data. So what I will do now is I'll go back and check my code whether I have loaded it on init or not. So let's go to the, yeah, so ng on init load superhero, that's working fine. Okay, also, yeah, what we will do now is maybe if we will check whether it is detecting the change by default or not. If it is not detecting the change, then we have to perform a change detection. So for that what I will do is I'll inject another service in Angular. We will call it as again private change detection reference, detector reference is something which I am referring to. So let's go for that. Change detector reference here, CDR. So let's try and do that. CDR dot detect changes. So after doing this, we will test whether it is detecting the changes or not. Yes, now it is detecting the changes, so looks fine. The view, edit and delete also looks good. So what I'm going to do now is that now that this view button is created, edit button is created, delete button is created, we know that we have already created the URL there, right? So since we have already created the URL, upon click of this view, it has to go to heroes/view, and then it also has to take an ID there, right? So those are the things that will be required for us. Fine. So what I will do is I will simply link these button to those things there. So let's link these buttons. So let's go back to our code and link these buttons there. So it is there in our superhero.html. So I've just created the buttons. I did not link these buttons yet. So as per the URL that we have already configured into our routing, we will be linking these things. So for this, since it is an HTML, so we require just a router link there. So I'm gonna just say for this edit button, router link. Now what we are actually doing is we want this router link, when upon click of this edit, an ID has to be taken. So that is why data binding has to be done. So route links can also be bind. So that's why I'm taking this square brackets here, binding. So those, so that it considers this thing not just as a simple string, but also it should consider the variables and everything. So what I'm gonna do here is it will take the URL like this, right? So which will have a slash, let's call it as heroes slash, this is edit, right? So heroes slash edit, and it also takes an ID there. So we have to provide that ID. So let's provide that ID, which is coming from hero dot ID. Okay, let's save it and I will test it now. So upon click of this add, it should take me to the slash ID. Let's check that why is not happening. So router link, edit button, that's fine. Yeah, it is heroes slash edit. Let's save it. Let's click on this. So you can see that edit slash 1, this is working fine. So it is taking me to the heroes slash edit slash 1, which is the ID. So similarly, I have to perform the same thing with what? Same thing with the view. So let me just copy this entire thing here, paste it, and instead of edit, let me call it as view, and also take this to a view page. That looks fine. So edit and view is done. Now the next button that we created was for delete, right? So delete should not take it to any other page. Delete has to delete the data onto this particular page itself. So what I will do is I'll simply create a event here itself, and let's call this as delete hero. Fine. So when I'm deleting this hero, the delete functionality has to be there. Let's copy that, and let's go to the TypeScript and create a delete functionality here. Okay, delete hero. So we have to simply do what? Simply subscribe to the method that we have already created in the service for delete. So this delete method, what we have done here is we are actually we need an ID, right? So we will be passing an ID here itself in the delete method. So which is gonna be hero.id. So whatever is selected, that has to be passed here. So let's come down here, and it takes a string, sorry, ID of type string is what it takes. Fine. And then I will check if the user is deleting this, then I'm simply going to subscribe to this particular method. That is going to be this dot hero service dot the delete method, and the delete method takes an ID. We know that the same local ID has to be passed there, and then we have to perform a subscribe, and we know that subscribe can result us in two things. One is what? The data. If the data is returned, that means perform an alert. If there is an error, then just give us a console.log. So console.log, this needs to just give us the error. In case of data, that means if the data is deleted, just give me an alert saying hero deleted. Fine. So let's just hit a save on this. So now we can go to view, we can go to edit, and we can delete the hero. Let us test whether that happens or not. Okay, so I'll just go to the default path, that is heroes. So let's go here. So if I click on view, I go to the view component, that's fine. If I click on edit, I go to the edit component, that is also fine. So if I just click on delete, the data has to be deleted. So let us check whether the data is deleted or not in my Postman. Although when I'm hitting on that, it is not showing me anything. So it says the data is still there, that is ID1 data is there. So upon click of delete, let's check it whether there is an error or something that is occurring when I click on delete. So maybe I did not save it. Let's go. Yeah, so the save is not has happened. So let's save everything, and let's come down here, click on delete. So it says no URL found for superheroes 1. Superheroes 1 is there, right? So ID1 we have, but if we are unable to delete this, let us test it here if we are able to delete it or not. So superhero/1, it's sent. So it is not found. So maybe there is a problem with the ID that we have created. Let us test that as well. So here, while I am creating an ID, it is string. I did not give it a string value, so maybe because of that it is not getting deleted. So what I will do is I will insert another one. Let us post a new one. So let's post the ID as string. Okay, because I have taken the ID there as string, so it should be a string ID. And now I am passing something like ID. Let's give it as 2 or something. Okay, let's give it 2. Let's hit post method does not take any URL there. So let's hit send now. So ID 2, again the same data. Let's simply refresh this. So we have the same data here. Now I will click on delete. So it says hero deleted, right? So again the if I refresh, it should be happening, right? So instead of just refreshing it, what I'm gonna do is after this alert also hero deleted, let's do a change detection here as well. Fine. So the problem was how we were inserting the data. So what we have done up to now is we are able to delete the hero, display the hero. So two things are done as for now. So what I will do is I'll create a second part of this video, because I don't want the video to be very lengthy. So we will create a second part, and in the second part we will finish off the functionality of view and edit, and also add a new hero. So see you in the next session. Stay tuned for this next part, because we are developing this application right from the scratch.